The man accused of pulling the trigger on Dallas rapper Mo3 was just attacked inside a federal prison and left fighting for his life in critical condition. And this happened at the exact moment one of the most explosive murder-for-hire cases in hip-hop history was inching closer to trial. That timing alone sent shockwaves across the internet, and people everywhere started asking the same burning question. If the alleged shooter just got hit behind bars, what does that actually mean for the prosecution's case? What does that mean for the man accused of ordering the hit in the first place? And what does it mean for the grieving family of the man the world came to know as Mo3? Yo, what's good, fam? Today we are going all the way in on this case, and when we say all the way, we mean every single layer, every hidden secret. We are breaking down exactly what happened to Kiwan White behind those cold prison walls. We are exposing the snitching situation and laying out everything that has been quietly unfolding behind closed doors. We are walking you through the murder-for-hire allegations against Bezy, what that indictment actually says, and what federal prosecutors have quietly been building heading into trial. And we are going to talk about Mo3's legacy, because this man deserves so much more than a headline. Stay locked in, because every single layer of this story gets heavier than the last. Before we dive deep into the case, let's talk about who Mo3 really was, because too many people only learned his name after he was already gone. Melvin Abdul Noble Jr. was born May 31, 1992 in McKinney, Texas, and raised in the projects of North Dallas, a neighborhood so rough he later nicknamed it Little Afghanistan. He attended Berkner High School in Richardson, and like many kids shaped by poverty and few options, his early years were far from easy. He brushed up against the law more than once, but his father stepped in and pulled him back, pushing him to pour everything he had seen and survived into music instead of letting the streets swallow him whole. That single decision changed the entire trajectory of his life. Mo3 dropped his debut mixtape, Mo3's, in 2014, and Dallas knew instantly this was something different. This was not just another rapper coming up. Mo3 brought a haunting blend of melodic, soulful delivery fused with raw street truth only someone who lived it could deliver. He followed it with Mo3's Reloaded in 2016. Then 4 Indictments, Gangster Love, Mo3's 3.0, and Osama. Project after project, building a catalog that shook Dallas to its core and started spreading far beyond Texas. His idol was Bezy, the Baton Rouge legend who paved the way for Southern rappers telling hard truths through raw emotion. And Mo3 was carrying that same torch for his own city. And just as national recognition was building, he linked up with his idol. In 2020, Mo3 and Bezy dropped a joint album, Bezy Mo3, which climbed the Billboard 200. The single Broken Love, remixed with Kevin Gates, later went double platinum through the RIAA. Mo3 was not just rising, he had arrived. He was 28 years old, and he spoke about his children in interviews with unmistakable pride, seeing fatherhood as his way out of the cycle that shaped his early life. The world was finally catching up to what Dallas had known for years. Then came November 11, 2020. That day, Mo3 was driving north on Interstate 35E through Oak Cliff, just south of the Dallas Zoo, when a masked gunman in a black Chevrolet Camaro pulled alongside him in traffic. What happened next was caught on surveillance cameras mounted on a passing 18-wheeler. Footage prosecutors later replayed in open court. It shows the masked man step out of the Camaro and move toward Mo3's car, gun drawn. Mo3 jumped out and ran. The gunman chased him on foot, firing round after round. Mo3 was hit. A bystander in another car was also struck but survived. Mo3 was rushed to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. That footage spread across the internet within hours, and the killing of Mo3, gunned down in broad daylight on a major Dallas freeway, became one of the most publicly documented murders in hip-hop history. Because of that footage, investigators had a head start most cases never get. Within just weeks, Dallas law enforcement had already identified a suspect. Kiwan White, just 21 years old and known by the rapper name Bezy, was taken into federal custody on December 9, 2020, after public tips came in once police released images of the masked shooter. He was first held on a felon in possession firearm charge before Dallas County charged him with murder. The case investigators built against White was methodical, leaving almost no room to breathe. Phone records showed numerous calls between White and another individual in the days leading up to and on the day of Mo3's murder. Cell phone location data placed White near the apartment where Mo3 had stayed the night before the killing, then tracked a path that mirrored Mo3's own movements before the shooting. Witnesses identified White as the gunman, and the 18-wheeler surveillance footage, which clearly captured the build and movements of the masked attacker, sat at the center of the prosecution's entire case. In February 2021, a Dallas County grand jury formally indicted Kiwan White on murder charges. White's legal situation grew more tangled from there. In May 2022, he pleaded guilty in federal court to one count of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, tied to a separate August 2020 incident where officers found a 9mm semi-automatic pistol in his pants pocket. On November 8, 2022, U.S. District Judge Karen Grenner sentenced him to 105 months, roughly 9 years in federal prison. That federal gun sentence runs separately from the state murder case. But here is where it gets real. This investigation was never just about the man who pulled the trigger. In the months and years following Mo3's death, a second, more dangerous thread was quietly developing. The streets have been saying since 2020 that this killing looked like a paid hit, and investigators were reaching the same conclusion, building a case to prove it. A second man, Devin Maurice Brown Jr., was also charged in connection with Mo3's death. Phone records placed multiple calls between Brown and White in the days leading up to and on the day of the shooting. When investigators searched Brown's home after the murder, they found a stolen AK-47, synthetic cannabinoids, pills that tested positive for methamphetamine, numerous scales and baggies, and over $3,000 in cash. Brown was charged with drug and weapons crimes at the federal level and has been held in the Dallas County Jail. But the biggest development in this entire case, the one that reshaped everything, came in March 2025. On March 18, 2025, a Dallas County grand jury indicted Maris DeAndre Conway, known professionally as Yellowy, on the charge of capital murder. The indictment alleged that Conway intentionally and knowingly hired a gunman to kill Mo3 while remuneration was involved, a murder for hire. Conway allegedly hired Kiwan White to carry out the killing. Conway was arrested on March 20, 2025, and initially held without bond. Yellowy grew up in Dallas's Oak Cliff neighborhood and is 33 years old. He built his name with his 2017 mixtape, Lightwork Volume 2, and the breakout track, That's On Me, which climbed to number 25 on the Billboard Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart. By the time Mo3 was killed, Yellowy was one of Dallas's most prominent rap figures. Conway has pleaded not guilty to the capital murder charge. Under Texas law, a conviction for capital murder carries either life in prison without parole or, if prosecutors pursue it, the death penalty. On March 26, 2025, Conway appeared in court seeking a reduction in his $2 million bail. Prosecutors responded by playing the 18-wheeler surveillance footage of the shooting right there in the courtroom, showing the masked shooter exit the Camaro and chase Mo3 on foot down the freeway. Conway was eventually released on a $750,000 bond and has remained on house arrest under strict court order conditions. Now let's talk about what prosecutors say actually connects Yellowy to all of this, because this is where the case gets layered in ways that go beyond the shooting itself. Investigators say this case grows out of a years-long, escalating feud between Yellowy and Mo3, a rivalry that did not start with music. It started in the streets of Dallas. The lead investigator in the Mo3 homicide testified in pre-trial hearings that the conflict traces back to 2017, when a comedian and Mo3 associate named Roy Pate publicly questioned whether Conway was really from Dallas. Conway and members of his crew later assaulted Pate. More than a year later, Pate was shot and eventually died from complications. Hours after Pate's death, Conway himself was wounded in a drive-by shooting while driving on the Sam Rayburn Tollway in Louisville. Body camera footage from his hospital interview, played in court during pre-trial hearings, captured a detective asking Conway directly whether there was beef between his camp and other Dallas rappers. Investigators later determined the vehicle used in that shooting was registered to an associate of Mo3. The rivalry kept escalating through music and social media. Mo3's 2019 track 219 directly referenced Conway, the shooting, and the people around him. In a 2019 interview played in court, Mo3 himself said out loud that he had heard there was money on his head, that someone wanted him dead. In 2024, a civil jury found Conway liable for assaulting Brandon Rainwater, Mo3's manager, outside a Dallas nightclub in January 2020, just 10 months before Mo3 was killed. And then there is the money. Prosecutors pointed to a $40,000 cash withdrawal Conway made in the days following Mo3's murder as a central piece of financial evidence. In February 2026, prosecutors filed an amended notice of extraneous evidence outlining prior criminal acts, gang ties, social media posts, and specific rap songs they intend to use at trial. 4 of Conway's songs made that list: Keep It in the Streets, On Your Head, Take 3, and Gassed Up. 2 of those songs, Take 3 and Gassed Up, were found buried inside text messages Conway allegedly sent to a co-defendant on the very day of the murder. Prosecutors also intend to argue that Conway has ties to the Crips and a group known as the Get Rich Cartel, using his social media, public image, and documented associations to paint the full picture of who they say ordered this killing. Now, here is where things get really intense. And this is the exact part the internet has been on fire about. Let's talk about Kiwan White possibly snitching on Yellowy. Because fam, the signs have been there all along. And when you line everything up, the picture gets clear fast. Think about the position Kiwan White is actually in. He is already sitting in federal prison on a 9-year gun sentence. On top of that, he is staring down a capital murder charge in the state of Texas, a charge that carries life without parole or the death penalty. He is the man prosecutors say pulled the trigger. He is the man on the surveillance footage. He is the man phone records and cell phone data place at the scene. The case against him is overwhelming, and in that kind of position, cooperation becomes the only real card left to play. Here is what Yellowy's defense team did that tells you everything you need to know. They filed a formal legal motion specifically demanding the state disclose any agreements, immunity deals, or benefits offered to witnesses. You do not file that motion unless you believe someone is talking. Conway's own lawyers are scared of what Kiwan White might say on that stand, and they put it in writing. Now, let's be real about what cooperation actually looks like inside the federal system, because a lot of people hear the word snitch and think it happens overnight. That is not how this works. When federal investigators have someone in custody on a charge this serious, they do not walk in one time and offer a deal. They build pressure over months. They come back repeatedly. They lay out exactly what the evidence looks like, piece by piece, so the person sitting across the table understands there is no version of this where they walk away clean. They show phone records, they show location data, they show surveillance footage, they show financial documents, and then they ask one question. Do you want to help yourself, or do you want to spend the rest of your life in a Texas prison? Kiwan White has been in federal custody since December 2020. That is years of that kind of pressure. Years of prosecutors and federal agents building this relationship, showing their hand a little at a time, making it clear that cooperation is not just an option, it is the only lifeline available. The feds are extraordinarily patient when the target is big enough, and Yellowy, facing the death penalty on a capital murder for hire charge, is as big a target as this case gets. What makes White's potential cooperation so devastating to the defense is the sheer specificity of what he would know. He was allegedly the man who carried out the killing. That means if he agreed to cooperate, he would not just be telling prosecutors that a murder happened, they already know that. He would be walking them through every detail of how it was arranged, who reached out first, how the communication happened, what was said, what was promised, what was paid, and when. Every specific detail prosecutors cannot pull from phone records alone. A cooperating Kiwan White would be able to fill in the rest with first-hand knowledge. That is the kind of testimony that turns a strong circumstantial case into something a jury cannot walk away from. And understand this, the federal government does not indict someone like Yellowy on capital murder without already knowing what their cooperating witnesses are going to say. The Department of Justice does not bring a death penalty eligible case to a grand jury on hope alone. By the time that indictment dropped in March 2025, prosecutors already had a picture of who said what to whom and when. The indictment itself, alleging that Conway hired White while remuneration was involved, uses language that is almost impossible to prove without someone on the inside telling you exactly how that transaction went down. You can infer a payment from a $40,000 withdrawal, but to prove the specific arrangement between the man who ordered the hit and the man who carried it out, you need someone who was actually part of that conversation. That person exists in this case, and the defense knows it. White's trial has been repeatedly delayed. The original start date came and went. Prosecutors and defense alike said there was more evidence than either side could work through in time. And every delay gives the feds more time to solidify exactly what their witnesses are prepared to say on that stand. Over 16 terabytes of evidence sit inside this case. 16 terabytes. That is not a case built around one witness. That is a case built around everything. And when someone decides to cooperate, the evidence they help prosecutors understand and connect becomes even more devastating. The streets have been saying Kiwan White is talking since the moment Yellowy got indicted, and the timing is not a coincidence. White has been in federal custody for years. The feds have had years to work on him, to put pressure on him, to show him exactly what a capital murder conviction in Texas looks like. When you are already doing 9 years, and someone slides papers across a table showing you that cooperation is the only way you do not spend the rest of your life in a box, people talk. That is simply the reality of how the federal system operates. Conway's legal team knows this. That motion they filed demanding witness deal disclosures was not routine paperwork, it was panic in writing. They know what Kiwan White knows. They know what he saw, what he was told, who called him, and what was promised. And the closer this trial gets, the more pressure builds on every single side. Then came the news that pushed the entire situation into a different level entirely. While Kiwan White was sitting in federal custody, he was attacked and left in critical condition. And the moment that information hit the streets, everybody understood exactly what it meant. When a key witness in a capital murder case gets attacked in prison right before trial, that is not random. That is a message. That is someone making sure certain things never get said inside a Dallas County courtroom. Think about what is at stake for everyone connected to this case. Yellowy is staring down the death penalty. If Kiwan White takes that stand and tells a jury everything he knows, who called him, what he was paid, how the whole thing was set up, that case becomes nearly impossible to beat. The surveillance footage already shows a masked man chasing Mo3 down I-35. The phone records already show the calls. The financial records already show the $40,000 withdrawal. Add a cooperating witness who was physically in the middle of the whole operation, and you have one of the most airtight murder-for-hire cases this city has ever seen. So when news broke that White had been attacked in prison, that someone got to him behind bars and left him in critical condition, the streets immediately understood the stakes. This was not a random altercation. Somebody sent a message, and that message was "do not testify." What this does to the case is significant. If White is seriously injured, his availability as a witness becomes a real question. His physical and mental condition heading into trial becomes a factor. And the people most motivated to stop him from talking had every reason to make sure that attack happened exactly when it did. The closer the trial gets, the more dangerous it becomes for anyone connected to this case who is considering talking. The pressure in this situation is immense from every direction. Federal prosecutors want their cooperator intact and ready to testify. The defense wants the exact opposite. And Kiwan White is sitting right in the middle of all of it, already behind bars, already staring down a murder charge, and now dealing with the consequences of being the man who knows too much. Let's talk about the full weight of evidence in this case, because even with everything happening around Kiwan White, the prosecution has built something that goes far deeper than any single person. In a capital murder-for-hire prosecution, the state has to prove not just that someone was killed, but that the killing was paid for. That requires a chain connecting the person who ordered it to the person who carried it out. In this case, that chain is layered and documented at every single link. There is surveillance footage of the actual shooting captured from an 18-wheeler on I-35. Cell phone location data placing people at specific locations at specific times. Phone records showing calls between multiple individuals. A $40,000 cash withdrawal made days after the murder. Text messages containing specific song lyrics sent on the day of the killing. A documented violent feud going back years. A civil jury verdict finding Conway liable for attacking Mo3's own manager. Social media evidence, physical evidence, including tattoos that prosecutors say prove gang affiliation. The lead investigator said it plainly in pretrial testimony. The lyrics are not the case, they are context. The hard evidence is what carries this prosecution, and that hard evidence sits inside over 16 terabytes of material both sides have been combing through for months. In Dallas, Mo3's death remains a wound that has never fully closed. The community watched this man get gunned down on a highway in broad daylight, watched the footage spread across the internet in real time, and has been waiting for justice ever since. Every court date, every indictment, every pre-trial hearing has been followed closely by people who knew Mo3, grew up on his music, and saw him as the voice of their city. Hip-hop at large has been watching too. This case has everything. Two prominent Dallas rappers, a paid hit carried out on a freeway in front of cameras, a cooperating witness in federal custody, and now an attack behind bars that has raised the stakes to a level nobody can ignore. The culture has been talking about this case since November 2020, and it is only getting louder. Let's bring it back to the man who started all of this. Mo3's catalog keeps growing in cultural stature years after his death. In May 2024, on what would have been his 32nd birthday, his estate released a posthumous album called Legend, featuring unreleased material from his vault alongside collaborations with artists he knew or who were inspired by him. His estate has actively protected his recordings, winning a restraining order in 2023 to stop a producer from potentially destroying unreleased vocal tracks. He grew up in a North Dallas neighborhood he turned into a location on the hip-hop map. His mother's home was where the whole neighborhood gathered. He made music that sounded like diary entries from someone living under real pressure, and people heard themselves in every single bar. He blended melodic vulnerability with street honesty in a way that separated him from almost everyone working in Southern rap at the time. The hashtags Long Live 3, LL3, and Long Live Mo3 have never stopped circulating. His estate gave out free food at one of his favorite Dallas spots on what would have been his birthday in 2024. Fans still share his music constantly. That is not the legacy of a rapper whose moment passed. That is the legacy of someone who became foundational to the culture, someone whose name will be spoken for a very long time. Mo3's death actually pushed the Dallas hip-hop scene forward rather than fracturing the community. The tragedy brought it together. Multiple artists picked up the torch collectively. That is exactly what Mo3 would have wanted, not one person carrying it, everybody moving together. Long live 3. So here is where everything stands right now. Kiwan White, the man prosecutors say pulled the trigger on Mo3, is in federal custody, serving a 9-year sentence for a gun charge, facing a separate capital murder case, and now dealing with the aftermath of a prison attack that the streets are saying was meant to silence him before he could ever take that stand. The pressure on this case is unlike anything this city has seen. Yellowy, born Maris Conway, is on house arrest, fighting a capital murder indictment, watching his own lawyers file motions trying to figure out exactly what Kiwan White has already told prosecutors. He has pleaded not guilty, but the evidence assembled against him. The footage, the money, the phone records, the text messages, the documented feud, the civil verdict, is sitting inside a Dallas County courtroom waiting on a jury. Devin Morris Brown Jr. faces his own capital murder charges. The whole web of this case keeps pulling tighter with every court date. Mo3 was 28 years old. His music was breaking through in a real way. He had children. He had a community that loved him. He turned a complicated life into art, and that art kept getting better. Everything that has unfolded since November 11th, 2020, every indictment, every hearing, every piece of evidence, every attack behind bars, it all connects back to one man who deserved to still be alive. So where do you think this case is headed? Type your take in the comments. We genuinely want to know. And if you have been riding with this story since day one, smash that notification bell, because as this trial moves forward, we will be right here breaking down every single update with you. Long live Mo3. Real talk.